I just said. Next one is 1503 Main Street, open a public hearing on request for determination of applicability. That should be, continued.
Yes. Not 1503. 1503 Main Street will be here.
It's continuation,
Oh, it's a continuation. I understand. Yes.
okay, and that's it for the hearings. Then we have some old new business, some discussion items, and that'll be it for this evening. So call it the order at 7:04, and this will be the voting order. Sharad, can you go first?
Recording in progress.
Sure. Chirag Stalekar, member present.
Walter Talbot, member present.
Tim,
Michelle, member present.
Rick,
Rick Keel, member present.
Martha,
Martha Moore, Vice Chair present.
Brian Bowe, Chair present.
Joseph Fleury, associate member.
Oh,
Present.
that's embarrassing
That's okay.
for both of us. Sorry,
Next I remember Joe was
you
here.
did.
Thanks, Martha.
That's very hard to explain. Anyway, so you can get right to it. The first item is 0 east of Haverhill Street. This is continuation of a notice of intent. Can you introduce yourself, please?
Evening, everybody. Steve Crisafulli with Activitas, and Greg Hockmuth with Epsilon, and zooming in is Meg Bazinski with Activitas. Just pull up. Plan. We'll kind of dive right back into the updated site plan from where we last left off. Walk you through the changes that we've made, and then answer any questions. We have our previous plan for reference. So the main goal from the last meeting was to really pull the walkway and as much out of the buffer zone as we could. And we've since almost entirely pulled that walkway out of the 35, with the exception of around the building, which was primarily for fire department access. Since the last time we were here, some additional changes were made stemming from planning comments, which were related with the road and the setbacks and the right of way. So that has been cleaned up a little. That didn't have any effect on shifting the building or pickleball courts or anything closer. Planting wise, we did reduce some of the plant material and plant count from the original schedule because we tightened up the limit of work. So what we were previously showing in the 35-foot buffer zone, we pulled that back. There are a couple areas where we are doing a little bit of grading to make the pathway accessible. And in those areas, we would revegetate and restore that. But we're doing that in an effort to not build any walls, to make those grades work. Trying to think of what else. Plant the trees. There were comments on the tree species. Those have been updated. The updated O&M plan has been provided. Snow storage has been updated. That will be removed off-site as treated as the town treats other municipal properties. So we will not be pushing towards any of the resource areas. Site is pretty tight, so that was confirmed. So temporary stockpiling towards the center of the parking lot. And all of that.
Okay.
Yeah, there were a few just general housekeeping items too. Greg Hockmith from Epsilon Associates. We confirmed that all the species are true natives. And we did replace the red pine with a suggestion, of the commission. So that's removed from our planting plan, and any temporary stockpile areas will be completely surrounded by erosion controls. You know, we did talk about that at the last hearing also.
Anything else you want to add? You all set? Okay. Any questions, comments from the commission? You want to start? Thanks to many also.
So you say you replaced the red pine. Is that in writing, or do we need to put that down as one of our conditions?
It's in writing. I think in the revised plan set, it's been removed.
And do we know what it was replaced with? Another tree already on the list or
Yeah.
something new?
I think it was just removed.
So a broader question, is that list written in one of these plans? And I just didn't see it.
I don't have it in this presentation, but did you receive the revised plans?
I did. The one I marked up is the ones I saw. I think this was the presentation of the plans I received.
Okay,
Yeah, it was in the revised plan set, in the planting schedule.
okay, good.
There's a bunch of conditions, but I think those come later in this hearing, right after we close? Okay, then I think I don't have any other comments.
Yeah, I had more time to do a little more research, and I'm more concerned about now the Coltech system and its ability to absorb storms. You based everything on the NOAA Atlas 14 Volume 10 for 24-hour storms. But they have since released other information, and the NOAA Atlas 14 point precipitation estimates of August 4th are much higher. For example, a 2-year 24-hour storm, you're designed around 3.09 inches, and this is like 4.04 inches. Then we factor in what IPCC is saying about there's a 75% chance of 25% more intense storms, mostly occurring in winter and spring with drought in summer. I think the system might be undersized.
I'm gonna let Meg.
Yeah, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes,
Okay, great. So we've sized the system to the town's bylaws, obviously at this moment in time. We do have overflows, as that backup in case, a severe storm or a storm that's greater than, back to back, things like that. So I don't know that there's been any movement by the town to change that bylaw. So for, at this time, we've designed to that bylaw.
Can you reference the storm event and the bylaw that you designed it around? I mean, I think Walter was talking about the NOAA.
Yep. So we're the NOAA Atlas 14, volume 10 for the project location. So the 2-year is a 3.09, the 10-year is a 4.65, and the 100-year is an 8.36 inch storm. So it's designed to handle an 8.36 inch storm.
But then the amended NOAA Atlas 14 point precipitation estimates of August 4th are much larger. Pardon me, I say much larger. They're a percentage larger, 25–30% larger.
I believe we submitted this all before, but we could take a look at that if needed. But I mean, that is what we designed to. That's what the bylaw too is, currently, and that's what we submitted on, so.
I'm more worried about the future than using past data to develop a design.
Well, we need to design to something, and that's what the bylaw calls for, so that's what we have done.
I guess I've been trumped,
Um,
so to speak.
yeah. Anything over there? Chirag, I can't see your hand up. You have any questions?
Nope, no questions.
Okay. I have a few. So one, well, a general point is there's a fair number of discrepancies on some of the various views of the plans. For example, in the one we got now, it shows the path with the low spurs going off to the trail is going to be in the wetlands. It's in one of the views, but not in the previous one. Also, in the planting plan, it's talking about the number of trees, and that doesn't coincide with the number that we counted out there. So how do you think we're gonna coordinate these different fact sets? Do we need to have a plan that we point to say, this is what we approved?
The spurs, what are you referring to?
So on the walking path going around the outside, there's now going to be two connections to the future path through the wetland. And on one of the views, those aren't there. And on another view in the same plan set, it is there. And so if you were to come in not knowing how this happened, which one would you take for the one that was approved?
Are you referring to this
Well,
being one?
so this is a view, right? You gave us a plan set.
Yeah.
Right, and in different views in that one plan set, there are different drawings, different illustrations of where that path is going to go.
We would have a conform set once we figured out what those spurs were from the commission. So even in speaking with Chuck earlier this week, we've talked about relocating the lower one.
Right.
So I think it would be we would be asking that it would be a condition that we finalize that and a final set of drawings.
Okay, so, but the condition would then say what? Get an agreement with the administrator on the exact placement of that trail spur? Because then we, the commission, wouldn't have a final view to vote on, to approve. I don't want to get in the way. I want to approve this, but I want to have a plan that somebody can go back to several years from now when I'm all dead and gone, and to say, yes, it coincides with what they approved back in the day.
Yeah, I think we would, final order wouldn't be signed until you guys all saw and signed off on a final plan. Correct?
Yeah, so I think what we're gonna land on, hopefully tonight, is we're hopefully gonna be able to close tonight and ask the commission to hold off on issuing an order until we submit a revised plan.
Okay.
But we can talk tonight about where it needs to be relocated. We have Chuck's notes, and we think it's a great spot that he chose. And we can even pull up that plan and show that area, talk about tonight if that makes sense.
Just as long as there's a mechanism that will work, that makes sure that we're all on the same page to what we approve. Okay, another question is on, I think it's the planting plan. There's a instruction, if you will, that says any slope exceeding 3:1 will receive a straw blanket before seeding. Where are you anticipating being steeper than 3:1? I saw steeper parts, at least from the drawing,
It
it
might have
didn't,
been a carryover, no, we don't.
okay. So that's
Yep.
a line that should come out. Let's see. So there's questions on the lighting. There's still some spillover. So you're already using dark sky, right? So you can't ask for that. Have you considered putting in some kind of screening vegetation on that side, the lower side, screen lower, where the light leaks into the buffers and towards the wetland?
Are you talking,
Can you go to the illumination?
Photometrics, yeah.
for the courts or the parking?
Mostly
This is really
sports.
hard to read.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm not going to try and decipher that from here.
My memory was it was more the pickleball courts where the
I
problem.
I
think
think
that's
we're,
right, yeah.
we're. For the courts, yeah, we did talk about, if we can select when we're in construction, depending on the condition of the trees and the vegetation beyond the 35, if we can sneak some additional evergreens in there.
So, but that's a wish and a prayer. So what if you can't sneak some evergreens in there?
Well,
They do
the
what?
other thing to keep in mind is this photometric plan doesn't factor in the existing vegetation. So the spillage that you're seeing is assuming there's no vegetation out there.
So,
So it's
So-
not actually reaching those light levels at that wetland.
so we can agree, put it in a condition that there will be some vegetation there. The type and number to be determined later, that will take this from open and leakage to some kind of screening to prevent that. That can be a condition, right?
That's new planting or maybe existing planting? What are you saying?
So my understanding of what I just heard is this analysis is assuming no vegetation. Right, and even then, there's marginal leakage towards the bottom. So I think if we had a condition that there will be some screening vegetation, that would correct the leakage that.
This is assuming there's no existing trees out there.
Right, that's what I understood you just said. So if we say there will be trees out there will be screenings out there, then that would take care of this without having to do a reanalysis or anything. That makes sense, Chuck? You're holding your head, that's never a good sign.
Well, I guess we can work on a condition, if they're just gonna close tonight and we have to issue it at the next meeting. Yeah, so you'd have to think of a condition that does that. There may be something out there, you may not think it's sufficient. So you have to, if you want that there, you can't leave it up to the applicant. You have to say that the commission will decide, or, you know,
Okay.
select, you're gonna place trees in the field
We'll
or.
have to work on it. I
Yeah.
don't think it'll take much to correct the 0.1, 0.2 that we're seeing on there, so. I'm
Do we
sure-
know what environmental impact this minor leakage will actually cause?
Yeah, we do.
I'm just curious, I would like to know.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Yeah, so a lot of native habitat their sensory is triggered by lighting and by time of year.
Yeah.
And so that could be the moon or whatnot. So light actually acts as those things, so it sends them in the wrong direction.
Okay.
So that's why we want to be very protective of light spillage.
Yeah.
So that's how I see it related. It might be more from Greg or Martha, who,
But the one point that I'm aware of, which is near to my wife's heart, and therefore by definition mine, is that there are nocturnal pollinators that are very sensitive to light, so it doesn't take much at all to throw them off their game. I don't know what's out there, but that's just one example.
I would also add that a lot of projects, this has come up, they're able to stop any light spillage pretty close to their project. This seems to be further than I've seen in the past. So I like the idea of being able to put up screening if the trees have been taken down. And we do have a part of this plan is that myself and the tree warden is gonna walk through whatever the remaining trees are and take down all the ones that are dangerous. You know, like, there'll be a list, you know, is it dangerous to people that are on a path? Would it fall, you know, onto the lawn area? Or would it, if it fell by itself out in the middle of the woods, we wouldn't take that one down, but we'll take down if the other two were triggered. So there may be more trees missing in certain areas than in other areas with all the work going on out there. Did you see, you saw the, can you go to the tree removal plan? It's on that set somewhere. There's a lot coming down, or actually, it's not a tree removal plan, it's a disturbance plan.
Yeah.
So it really just shows all of the work that's the area that's going to be disturbed. It's kind of a hatched one.
Is that called the site?
That's it right
preparation?
there. So everything from the road to the dark line on the outside, which would
Yeah.
be considered the limit of work, and that's right around the 35-foot area. All that's gonna be altered and trees are gonna be removed in that area.
How many trees did you end up counting?
We didn't-
300.
We counted 300 minus 26, between 25 and 35. So 274 if you want to be technical.
And were they all replaceable trees, like over 6 inches in diameter?
Yes.
We only counted the ones 6 inches and up.
Yeah, we marked them. Okay, so in the comment Chuck just made, he was talking about that he and the tree warden had responsibility. There's a note on one of the plans that says it'll be the coordinate administrator and the landscape architect, and that needs to be changed to tree warden. Let's see, what was it? Okay, on the lighting, what lights are on the back of the building? Because there's some leakage down there, again, very slight, but there's leakage there, so what's,
I don't know if anyone from BH Plus is on, but I believe it was just egress lighting at the exits.
I don't think there's any doors in the back, right?
There's one
Is
right
there?
here.
Okay, can you follow from there out to the wetland line to see if that's where the leakage is?
So good news, in that location, it's very thick with pine trees. So I think there's gonna be very little leakage into the wetland on that side of the building.
Okay.
But again, it's something that we can observe, and I think whatever condition we come up with for the additional plantings, it'll have to be within a year of occupancy, because I think it's gonna have to be built. So we can go out there at night and see where the leakage is, come up with suitable locations for additional plantings if they are required.
Okay. Let's see. So on this plan, it's still showing that path as paved. Have you talked to Chuck about that? So we want to be 3/4.
Stone dust.
Dense grade.
Would you be agreeable to a stabilized stone dust in lieu of that? Just in terms of accessibility, we had more success with that longer term. Have less maintenance on the fence grade. Once those 3/4 inch stones start popping, you're out of compliance.
Chuck, do you have an opinion on that?
Yeah, I think the commission's comment would just be to not have asphalt.
That I agree with. But
And so dense grade or stone dust. As long as they're, you know, they react the same, same, so stone dust, does it migrate more than,
Right,
you know, and Steve's saying it doesn't.
Only to put it in right, yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
Just
that's
to
fine.
be clear, we do need some paved path around the building.
Around the back of the building for
Yeah,
fire,
basically
fire
from-
hose access, yeah. I saw that. Okay. All right. Chuck, do you have any comments before we get into, list of conditions?
Yeah, I was concerned about, well, I don't know if we're gonna be going over conditions tonight. So, the comments would be, my first comment is, I did notice that the subdivision line doesn't meet the, proposed, trail spur. And so I have a situation where the Conservation Commission is gonna wanna build something on the town land, and we're gonna have to get different permissions. So it would be a request from the commission to move the subdivision line up to the end of the trail spurs in both locations. So we're only building on conservation donated land. See that? Okay. The snow storage, I was gonna ask if there was, how many days after the storm would they be removing the snow?
I think it said 24 to 48 hours on the slide that when you pulled it up. 24 to 48
DPW
hours.
has confirmed that.
So we were thinking of a 4-day condition. Seems like you would have plenty of time in that amount of time, within 4 days,
Not speaking for DPW, but I would assume so, yes.
yeah. This is just a list of conditions that I put together. Do you want me to
Well,
start
no,
going through them?
so before we get to
Just looking
conditions,
for,
there was also the discharge areas.
Yeah, the discharge areas. So in the buffer zone plantings, the entire buffer zone, we want true natives. But we also want, because it's the conservation's jurisdiction, is if those trees are replanted or new ones are put in, that they're either true natives, or I guess it would be the forestry department would come to the conservation department and make a request for a non-true native tree. So that's gonna be a condition. Hearing none. And the land will be transferred before the issuance of the occupancy permit.
So I wasn't ready on the conditions, but, because also there's two areas to talk about where they're they're shaded on the plan as if they're going to be selected tree cutting, but the label is not pointing to those two areas. I think there's two on the right-hand side where it does, but left-hand side it doesn't. So just the label adjustment there.
So those are some updates on the plan that are needed. And then you wanted me to talk about the discharge areas. There's two. We can move those a little bit closer to the wetland. I'm not saying going right up to the wetland, but somewhere in the 25-foot area would be a lot better than way out by the 35-foot.
And then there was the area near the pickleball court. Where, at least from what you can see in the plan, it appears to be grass. So the question was whether that could be not maintained, cut like turf grass, but some kind of grasses that would be once a year like we do in Bear Meadow. So changing the type of vegetation, still mowing it, just not as frequently. I don't know what the town would think about.
We talked about potentially actually switching that to something like clover. Doing more of a native mix like that, like at Birch Meadow. With pickleballs going over the fence and people walking on the path and going to get balls with ticks and going through that. It'd be preferable to keep that a little bit more cleaned up and, that area back there, we have some, drainage structures, and for maintenance access, which we've talked about a few times. And we did talk about adding some benches back there. So that was the proposed.
And so how often is do you mow clover?
I mean, you can.
Well, you have to mow
We
it
can
at some
leave it.
point because you're gonna get woody vegetation
Yeah,
every once in a while.
Okay,
But we understand the intent to not be
Yeah.
out there mowing.
do you have any other general comments without getting into conditions, because that's a different list? If not, I'll ask Walter in the meantime.
Yeah, we'll revisit my subject about the estimates. I pulled up the Reading Stormwater Regulations 4.1.3.1. And it says the data you should use is from the NOAA Administration Atlas 14, Volume 10, or newest volume, which is a vague term, I must confess. But the Atlas 14, Volume 10 was issued in 2015, revised in 2019, 6 years ago. The NOAA Atlas 14 point precipitation estimates were issued on August 4th of this year. Much more current than, so I interpret, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not going to interpret what the newest volume means, but coming from NOAA, the newest volume has much larger numbers for precipitation estimate.
But we submitted before.
Yep.
that. So I'm not sure. I am, as part of the conditions, we can look at it. When I pull it up right now, I'm seeing, let's see here. If I'm looking at
Is
the
there a
right one.
is there a safety factor built into your design?
I mean, there always is, right? That's how modeling works for sure. So I believe we do have it in there. I can say that in this, what I'm looking at right now, based on the NOAA site, with the 14 volume 10 version 3 that's online right now, that 24-hour storm for the 100-year is at 8.25, which is actually a little bit lower. So I'd have to go back and see why that is a little bit, why that one would have come down. But our storm that we designed is to, hold on, let me find it.
But they also-
Is to 8.36 inches. So we should our system is designed for that 100-year storm. It should work with the safety factors that are built into TP40 and HydroCAD and all those kinds of things. So we're fine. That's what we submitted on. That was based on what was there when we submitted. I don't know that there's technically anyone that does it the day before a meeting to update if there's been an update. So we're very confident with our design and with the rainfall that's been used.
The only dilemma is that there's a 90% confidence factor in it, which puts it, instead of your 8.35 or your 8.24, brings up to 11.5.
We use the bylaw. I'm not, I don't think that you guys are holding any other project to that, I don't believe that any other project is being held to that higher standard. It's not, it's outside the bylaw. This is what we've designed to.
I'm just reading the bylaw. It says or newest volume, and whatever that term means, I'll let somebody else define it. I'm done.
Okay, thank you.
So what's your error bar on your estimate?
I don't know off the top of my head. I'd have to go through our calculations.
Okay.
But I mean, I would ask, this seems a little bit out of left field, so I'm just curious if all the other things that you guys are reviewing for stormwater are being held to this standard. Because this is different. This is the first time that I've come across this.
Yeah, so let me jump in here just for a second. I don't believe that we're issuing the stormwater permit for this project. And the other thing is, did I hear that these regulations just changed?
I just looked it up
So,
before I came to the meeting to be safe.
I mean, I think we would be locked into the date,
Submitted.
that,
Forward.
yeah, it was, that we had the, notice of intent application. I'm not sure if we're
June
talking the last
26th.
couple of weeks. Is someone talking? What'd you say?
We submitted on June 26th.
Yeah, so in June 26th, so I don't know if it was just recently updated. This is a, you know, a good point, that you're bringing up. I don't wanna discount this point because it's a big difference in, volume there. So
But
I don't know exactly what to do about it, and
I would agree that it's unquestionable that the numbers will be going up over time. It is somewhat uncertain what the newest volume means, but put that aside, they did submit under the old rules, which I think is what we have to hold them and ourselves to. So this would be useful for future ones, but not for this one, I don't think.
we can,
I'm
so
just-
CPDC is still open. I don't believe it's for stormwater. But if you wanted to put that information into an email, I could send it to Andrew McNichol, or you could send it to Andrew McNichol also. Because they didn't close last night.
But the stormwater numbers are all gonna be changing. The 100-year storm's gonna be different.
I mean, there are certain protections that are in place. You know, it's the same as if you were before the zoning board. It's not a new regulation that impacted your project after you submit it. It's, you're bound by the regulations that are in play at the time you file. And I think that's what we did here, and we weren't trying to pull the wool over anybody's eyes. We didn't know about this revision that came out August 4th. We were just going with the numbers that were in play at the time of the filing.
Whoever's name goes on the application, I guess they're responsible, not me.
Fair enough. Any other comments from the commission? Chirag, you have anything? I can't see your hands up.
Nope.
Okay. Any comments from, anything more for you? Just comments?
No, I don't have any comments.
Anything from the public? Let's do the room first. Any comments from the room? Questions? Anybody online? Comments or questions?
Yeah, just use your raise hand function. I don't see anyone. And just. Yeah, I was just looking to see if Ryan was there, but he's not. No.
I said Brian. Okay, then. I'm ready to consider closing, but if we're gonna close, it'll be with the presumption that there'll be a update to the plan set that would be what would be agreed upon by you. Is that the way this will go forward?
Well, if we just close and not issue, it would. The applicant can't give any more testimony,
That's about
but
right.
you can review the information that they
Okay,
submit.
so let's do that.
But that creates a problem, doesn't it? Maybe there's something you want to talk about. Maybe you should close. But, and then that we talked about, is there anything here that would prevent you from, when you review it? You have
Of the things that we
questions?
talked about. So the things that I think about that matter are things like those spurs going to the future path. I'm not so worried about the last 0.1, 0.2 of the lighting. I think that can be handled with screening or what have you. It may already be done for that matter. Not worried about the snow storage anymore, not worried about the water, the conversation we just had. So I'm not, nothing's coming to mind that makes me think that if that is different, we would regret closing.
And the applicant and the town, along with Greg, received this list of conditions and comments that I put together. I didn't have any comments. I don't think that, I think you can close because the revisions on the plan, we'll get to that point. There may be a couple iterations of that, but we'll get to something approvable and that is exactly what the commission has asked for prior to the next meeting and have that available to review.
The big things I had were the past, stone dust is fine. The review by you and the tree warden,
Yeah.
and that's in there, we talked about that, so. My perspective, not speaking for all of you, from my perspective, I'm okay.
Yeah, so let's just enter my email of today's date, August 27, 2007 to Activitas and Greg Hockmith and the town with a list of conditions and general notes and that I received no comments. So with that, we put all these into the order of conditions. We'll be able to talk about at the next meeting.
Normally, when we close, we have everything pretty much well wrapped up in a nice little packet. There's a lot of vagueness here. If we don't close, what are the implications? If we do close, what are the implications? And all the stuff is still up, open.
Well, if we do close, if we just close, then it's done, no more comments, and it's just going through the process of issuing. If we close but don't issue, there's some time to look at whatever update comes in and perhaps, at least to understand it, give time to understand it. If we don't close, then that means a continuation for another meeting, which is a hardship on the town and the project. Not that that's our primary concern, but it is a concern, it's a consideration. So what is it that in your mind would be the thing that you think?
Can I take a shot at that also?
Sure.
Thank you. So if we close tonight, we're not gonna get anything except for what we specifically asked for. So we'll have an updated plan, no other testimony, no other information from the applicant. And then at the next meeting, we'll review the plan. And if there's something wrong with it, we'll have to make a condition. And so we'll talk about all of our conditions for the project. And then when we're finished with that, we'll issue. So we have 21 days from the close to issue the project, to issue the permit. So that would be from tonight. So it would have to be pretty quickly sent out after our next meeting. But I think that there's an opportunity to ask for a little bit more time. So we're in line with CPDC. So
There's an extra week in there, because the next
that
one's
might be
September 10th.
granted. So closing tonight stops the applicant from being able to participate in the meeting anymore.
But we can still make amendments.
We can make conditions and we can talk amongst ourselves because until we issue. So you close and then you discuss and then you issue. So discussion would be anything you want to talk about plus conditions. And so the other thing, if we didn't close, given the timeline, it's really, we close and issue the same night. So in my opinion, it's the same thing. But this applicant has asked for us to close. And so,
Which is meaningful anyway, because in order to continue, it has to be at the applicant's request. Since they actually want to close, let's assume that that's not coming.
yeah. So yeah, they're asking to close, so we should probably, unless there's a compelling reason, and usually that's something where, I guess, when you're talking to close and the commission not doing it, it would be for an appeal. And so what reason do you have to, not, it's like, if you don't have information, you don't have a clear answer on one of your questions. If something wasn't gotten to, you weren't provided documentation. And so there was this gray area because we have to let DEP know why we didn't close. And so I'm not saying any of this will happen, but those are the reasons why you may do it. So except for this last thing about the NOAA Atlas 14 plus comment that you had, which again, I think are great comments. And But we're not in charge of the stormwater in this situation. So we're not issuing that permit. It is something we should be concerned about. But also it's also better to hear that, upfront, or to get that information so we can get it to the engineers so they can answer those questions, because as you can hear, how hard it is to kind of get that off the cuff and try to give an answer without being prepared. So.
So having said that, looking for a motion to close.
I'll move to close the hearing on 0 east of Haverhill Street.
Walter Talbot seconds that motion.
Chirag Stalaker in favor.
Walter Talbot's in favor.
Captain Michelle in favor. Keo in favor.
Martha Moore in favor?
Brian Moe in favor. Okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
See you at the next meeting. Thanks.
Chance for the room to empty. Have a conversation. It wasn't on the agenda, conversation about what was school at school. Okay.
Shut this.
No,
That's fine.
it's all right.
So if you remember, our last official business concerning the school was that we voted to approve the school, assuming an agreeable leases agreement. All right, so other things have been happening in the meantime. Chuck, do you want to give a status update on where it is? You want me to go through things?
Yeah, so so the cabin's been shut down for the school and for residents of the town and the Ipswich River Watershed Association and the Recreation Department. So the building inspectors are, reviewed the plan, had some comments that they mentioned weeks ago, and went out, trying to deal with the applicant, trying to ask for an assessment, code assessment, and which is the building commissioner's term, but they wanted to understand the classification that was that the cabin was under and what they wanted to use it for. So educational, assembly, something like that, some sort of a class that it would be in. And with that, they would be able to back into the occupancy and the building type and what's needed. So a couple weeks ago, they said we couldn't be using the cabin. Yeah. And then the fire chief and the building department went out there and looked at it, and they confirmed that, and they still want it to be shut down. So the cabin is not able to be used, and that they're calling it a single family house, because I guess that was the last occupancy that they were able to locate. The renovations in 2009 through the Recreation Department, the Conservation Commission, to turn it into a, I don't know what the correct term is, but an assembly area or a classroom, to open it up, to put in a kitchenette, to upgrade the bathroom. The building permit application and the issuance of the building permit has a check off on it that says an occupancy is needed after that project was completed. But that occupancy for that work to change, I'm gonna say in my mind, it was changing it from a single family house to something that the town could use. Not sure if that was educational or whatever use, but that occupancy permit is gone. No one can find it. And so the building department just, you know, went back, and I'm giving you what I know about it, to be honest with you. I haven't been given many updates, although this is a Conservation Commission building. Jane Wellman has been gracious enough to keep me up to date with a couple of updates. But all the conversations between the building inspector and anyone in town didn't involve me, and I wasn't told what the building inspector was saying. So other than a few emails that I got from our new building inspector, which was just yesterday and today, explaining the rules and the regulations and the reason behind why they're doing this, you know, it just came in today. So long and short of it is, it's been shut down, needs to be evaluated. And once it's evaluated, we'll know where we stand. And I think the we is the town and the Conservation Commission, try to get this thing opened up. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, or Joe, you want to add anything to that?
I guess, I mean, I have a quick question on that. So was it shut down specifically because of the deck project, or was it because of the review due to the Montessori Forest School?
So the deck was, so it's a little confusing, and I'm not really clear on what the heck happened.
Mhm.
But we were issued a permit, and we were, during the permit process, we were told not to use a residential permit, but to use a commercial permit.
Mhm.
And so that was filled out, and you know, in my mind, why not a commercial permit? This is a town property. I thought that's why. I mean, again, no explanation was given to me, but we had to fill out a new permit. And so when we asked questions, I emailed the building inspector specifically asking about the height of the railings. I was told 36 inches is fine. Come to find out, the building inspector was thinking it was okay because this was classified as a single-family house, and I'm thinking it's okay because at 36 inches, because the building inspector said it. So, you know, we wasted a lot of money doing that. I mean, a lot of money we don't have. So now those railings have to be elevated. To answer your question directly, none of this happened because of the deck. The deck was built, it's a strong deck, there's no issues with that. But when it turns from a single family house and the new classification is commercial or educational or assembly, certain things have to be upgraded. There's a rise and run with the steps that has to be corrected, probably means we have to rebuild the steps.
But
There was always a railing, so we never got a chance to finish off the railings for the ramp. And there was another section where accessibility, and there's the entrance there needed to be flattened out.
I think to the point, it was the fact that we wanted the school to go in there that prompted the looking at the past, which is how it was discovered that there wasn't this
Mhm.
occupancy certificate from 2009 or whatever it was. So it was prompted by that, but not because of that.
Okay,
Yeah.
so all previous use between 2009 and today, so for example, the Trails Committee uses that meeting space. Is that considered assembly under the IEBC building code?
I
Like,
don't know.
or is it educational at that point if you have a Lego class in there? So that,
The
It's
problem
just
with the
weird.
building department is they don't review their own, they don't review their own code
Mhm.
and let you know where you've gone astray or how to bring it back into conformance. That's your problem. You have to decide that, and that's why we need the code assessment, because we're not getting that from our building department. Yes, you know, many times, many emails, I said, we've had the Ipswich River Watershed Association doing stream team classes there. We've had Tufts University down there. We've had family care
We use it for push
groups
fest.
down there. meeting and then going out. There's been Lego classes, there's been cooking classes, there's been all this
That's where the land
activity.
use summit was 2 times.
land use summit, the Trails
So the-
Committee has
so the-
been meeting there.
So the path forward is to get this
I
assessment.
think the select board was going to meet there one time.
So the path forward is to get the
Well,
assessment.
wait a minute, to finish your question off. No, none of that matters to the building inspectors because they said they can't find the occupancy permit, so they're not gonna determine that use was illegal in their minds, so we're not going to grandfather those in.
So we need a new chapter 34 report effectively.
Yeah.
And then I guess to clarify too, we're just speaking of Matera Cabin. The grounds are not shut down, correct?
they can't
The
do that.
garden or anything like that, it's only the building.
It's only the
What
building.
about the garage for trails? Because that's what we use to store equipment,
We
you
did
know,
look at
trail
it.
building. That impacts a lot of our projects, I would say.
I don't know the answer to your question.
Well, they went in there, I know that. They
Right.
asked me for the code to go in the garage.
Is that considered town use? It's like non-staff or staff use?
So, it's, I guess, that's a gray area right there, but I think that if I wanted to read, the building commissioner's comments to the letter of their law, we're not authorized to be in the building.
So that would impact trails work that requires equipment from that garage until this report is
Yeah.
conducted.
I think,
That's a shame. That's a real shame.
So Chuck has talked with a number of people. Jane, Karen Herrick, Andrew, I'm not sure who else. I've talked with Karen Herrick, Matt Canellis. And so if I can speak for Matt, and if I'm wrong, I apologize, but in general, he sees this as somewhat positive, generally positive, not to be rushed, do things the right way to make sure we get it right. And he doesn't know of any major obstacles other than just the process has to play itself out. That's my summary of the conversation that I had. So we thought there were issues from the fire chief perspective. According to Matt, no, he just hadn't.
So, yeah, I think, I read your email. I think you talked to Matt before we got the summary. So the fire chief is, or possibly is asking for fire alarm system.
Gotcha, okay, that is new.
And so there's some fire issues in the original comment. So I think that the latest I heard was we have some things, we have nibbles about what may be needed. And again, the building department doesn't make a list. They won't do that for you and they won't do a code assessment. And so we need to find someone who can do that. And then once they have that list, they'll be able to react to it. This is the building department. And then we'll have to have a licensed contractor do the work. Joe Huggins was brought in, and I don't think there is money or an appetite to get involved in this. So, it's facilities. So right now, the most we can hope for is, maybe getting this code assessment and then finding out where we're at and then trying to find out, what money we
So
need
who
to make
would
these
do the
improvements. I don't know.
So we have to find somebody?
No, I think this is happening internally. I think Jane and I think because I also wasn't involved in that email, but I heard reading the building commissioner's email, they're asking for that. Jane was hoping to have that happen. Like I said, Jane's been updating me a few times. I'm not sure, if Andrew has found someone or not, but I think he was on that also to try to get someone to help us out or understand what's going on.
Okay,
On behalf of the public, though, what should they do now that they're losing a space that can be rented out? Should they be contacting recreation? Should they be contacting town hall? Like, I mean, how many hours approximately in the fall do we see a Terra cabin rented out, and what would be their path forward?
Well, as the weather changes, in town, the Matera cabins rented out a lot, or, just to have a space that's a shelter for storms or bad days. But, yeah, we usually rent it out 2 or 3 times a month, and that's not including what recreation needs it for. And I know they've already stopped probably 1 or 2 programs that they had in there.
So they should contact town hall, contact rec for alternative locations if there was any plans on renting out Matera for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, rec rents it, but so does Conservation Commission rent it. So we'll, when people call up, we will let them know that it's not open yet. And same thing, Recreation Department's doing. Yeah.
Okay.
I think, we're right in the middle of this. It could go, it could stay like this for a while, or it could go where we're never back in the building again. I'm not sure what's going on. I mean, it's a shame. I wish it was brought up differently. It seems like to say you don't know that activity has been happening, it just is unbelievable. I don't think that is true.
Are we in contact with trails, in the interim to notify them?
Yeah.
Okay.
I let the chair know. The chair knows that meetings can't happen there. Otherwise, nothing else has come up. There's no trail committee projects happening. So there's nothing been planned.
we have heard of other cancellations, but anyway, so I think that's pretty much the point at the moment. The school is on hold until this is squared away, whenever, however that is.
Yeah, so speaking about the school, they're still looking for options. I want to say, trying hard to find different options, and there are still options at Bear Meadow. So the school can operate as an outdoor school. They don't have a bathroom and they don't have shelter. There's the pavilion that could give some sort of shelter, and the bathroom could be a porta potty.
And they did talk about one of their uses was for very cold weather. It's August, so we're not there yet.
No,
So there is some time for this still to play out.
yeah, there was that discussion about starting it up. A month or 2, maybe this is solved.
Okay. Questions? Okay, let's get back to the agenda. The next item, 57 Longwood Road. This is a continuation on a notice of intent by the application request. This hearing is being continued to our next meeting, September 10th. Can I have somebody?
We already voted on that.
Voted on that.
So never mind. Next one is 1503 Main Street. This is a continuation of public hearing on a request for determination of applicability. I don't know if Garrett's online, but I'll read the blurb before we get going. Continue public hearing on request for determination of applicability filed by Garrett Alpha Cobb pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Wetland Protection Act and or the Reading Wetland Protection Bylaw, Section 7.1. The applicant proposes removing an existing deck and constructing an 11.7 by 15-foot screen porch and 11.7 wide unscreened deck wrapping around the east and north side of an existing garage at a single-family home. Work includes the installation of approximately 16 to 18 new footings and a modification of existing stairs. Portion of the work are within a 100-foot buffer zone. No activity is proposed within the 25-foot no disturb zone, The application plans can be viewed during regular business hours at the Town Hall Conservation Office, 16 Lowell Street, Reading, Mass, and on the Conservation Division page under the project by year. Assessors map 60, lot 11, Reading, file number 2025-13. Okay.
And good evening,
Hello,
President,
Garrett.
and nice to be back. Yep.
Do you want to go ahead and walk us through it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
So,
no, we'll get through the whole project. Let's just-
Yeah, we don't have to go through the whole project. So we left off basically just needing an understanding of what you're going to do for the roof runoff of the portion of the deck that is roofed or covered.
great. So I'm sharing my screen now. Hopefully that's visible to you.
Yep, we see that.
Great. So so the plan that I've put together, I'll just walk you through the contents here. So the roof portion is going to be 15 feet by 11'7". I've got 3 options for us to discuss today, so I'll just run through them in turn. The first one and the preferred option would be putting a gutter on the edge of the shed roof and gathering that water into a downspout, and then directing the water onto the existing crushed stone bed, which is directly below the existing deck. So this option, I'm proposing this because it would keep the water infiltration patterns basically the same as they exist today. So today, the rainwater falls upon the deck, drifts through the deck boards, and infiltrates through that crushed stone bed. And so the proposal here, proposal number 1, is to use a gutter to gather that rain runoff and send it where it's going today. Amy, I can pause here for questions, or if that option is clear, I can explain the next one.
Yeah, why don't you go to the next one? I don't see any questions coming up.
So number 2 would be a gutter with discharge into a drip line trench. So the water from the roof would be gathered into a downspout and directed into a new infiltration trench located beneath the drip line. The dimensions of this would be 24 inches wide by 18 inches deep. The trench would extend along the full length of the roof overhang. The trench would be filled with washed crushed stone and would be surrounded by a non-woven geotextile fabric. And so this would ensure that vines didn't find their way into that crushed stone, and would ensure that the system kept functioning over a long period of time. And then option number 3 is the same as option 2, but with no gutter. So there would be a drip line trench dug with washed stone, crushed washed stone, and the geotextile fabric. But instead of a gutter, it would just be direct drip from the roof into the infiltration trench. So our request is that if all 3 of these options are acceptable, then the commission could indicate so, and we can make some additional decisions down the line in consultation with our contractor. But yeah, would love to hear your feedback on the acceptability of these different options.
Okay.
We also,
Oops, sorry.
yeah, just one more comment. We've also played around with the idea of adding in a rainwater barrel, to gather rainwater and use it in lieu of some of our irrigation. Because this is on the sort of high points in the hill, it would be handy to use to water a garden. But that's not an integral part of these plans. It's kind of an option that, again, we're considering. So just thought I'd mention it, but that's not an integral part of these plans.
Okay, thank you. Any comments, questions from the commission? Martha?
How will you determine which of these 3 options you're going to use?
Well, it'll be in consultation with our contractor. I think that these are roughly in order of preference. So if all of the options are approved, it's most likely that we'll proceed with option number one, because it's sort of the least disruption and, you know, construction effort and materials. So that's probably the likely way we'd proceed if that was permitted. I suppose there's a world in which we decide we'd rather not have a gutter. Again, that's kind of a simplicity standpoint. But yeah, I think in order of preference and in order of likelihood of us enacting, assuming we're allowed to enact all of them.
So the point of us wanting water infiltrated is we want to get it back to the ground table, right? So you want to look at the options from that perspective. You want to be sure the water gets into the ground. So that means we want to avoid surface flow. Now yours isn't the steepest property, but there still is a slope, so we don't want surface flow. If you were to go with the first option, how deeply dug would the stones under the deck be?
I'm not totally sure. Again, that stone bed is already present, and I haven't, you know, excavated in there to see how deeply it's dug. So I guess the point of view I had in proposing this option is that I believe that sort of the goal of these mitigations is to ensure that the project does not disrupt the current water infiltration patterns that exist today. And so I can't say that what exists today is incredibly effective, but just that it would seem that this project would not change those patterns.
Mhm.
I would not recommend number three. I had done that at a summer house and the water comes off, splatters, hits the house, goes outside the trench and creates streams, especially during a big storm. So number three, I wouldn't recommend.
Okay,
Thank you.
Chuck, any comments from you?
Yeah, if you go with number one, I would like to see that you're digging it in, you're creating a, like removing the topsoil at least, and then setting the stone within the ground, so it just doesn't come out the sides, and some portion of it is contained and will have a chance to seep into the ground. All of our infiltration systems are in ground, and that's what we'd like. So we're adding water to the water table, not to the top of the soil where there may be fertilizers and other things to contaminate the runoff. So that would be my only change, and I like all of these.
Okay, then, so given that guidance, if you will, I don't think we have to ask you to commit to any particular one of them. You have a preference, that preference is fine to me. I don't hear anybody disagreeing with that. So you meet with your contractor, you can choose one of these three. I agree with Walter's assessment that the third one is probably the least desirable. I've seen that not work more often than I've seen it work. But we can leave it up to you. So at this point, I think we're ready to close. So kind of a motion to close on 1503 Main Street.
I move to close the request for determination of applicability of 1503 Main Street.
Walter Talbot seconds that motion.
Chair Axteliker in favor.
Walter Talbot's in favor.
Michelle in favor. Rick Keough in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
Ryan Bowe in favor. So any conditions we want to talk about, it's an RDA, so we can do a few conditions. I think the main one has to do with this water infiltration. We've covered that, so maybe just have a note in their conditions saying to choose from one of those three. I think that's the only condition I can think of. Any other ones?
The erosion control as needed.
Chuck, do you have any additional conditions?
The only condition I would say, when you let us know when you pick which option you're going with, and then when the trenching or excavation is conducted, we have to do a site inspection prior to filling it.
Okay, with that, can I have a motion to issue a negative determination? 15 feet of Main Street.
I move to issue a negative determination for 1503 Main Street.
Walter Talbot seconds that.
Chad Oxtalaker in favor.
Walter Talbot's in favor.
Michelle in favor. Keo in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
I'm voting in favor. Okay, thank you, Garrett.
Thank you. What should I expect for next steps then to see those conditions finalized in coming days?
I'll send the determination of applicability to you next week. But you can prepare to start right now with your project. And if it comes into the building department prior to me sending that out to you, I'll just quickly send it out and sign off on your building project. How's that? So you're
Great, thank you.
You're done with our process. This process isn't like the notice of intent process, so just would like to know, when you start, when the excavation happens, get a site visit at that time, and then a final inspection.
How's that?
Excellent. Okay. Thanks very much.
Right.
I think there was also a second question of
Yeah, we're coming up on that.
release.
I think the chair's gonna
Okay.
take that up next.
Okay,
And
excellent.
bond.
Okay, so what he's talking about is, back when these two houses were built, there was a bond. It was issued, basically, the developer had to put some money aside, which was held by the town. And Garrett is asking that we release that bond. It's been held for quite some time at this point. So we would need to vote to release the bond. What it means is the money that the town has been holding goes to the developer. And then anything else that can happen is among the developer and the homeowner. So for us, it's just, do we vote to let the money go? Any questions or comments on that? Why was the money held? It's always held for these things in case there's issues. It's a holdback, basically,
Nothing to do with environment.
unless there's issues. with
So if we
the-
want to do another bond, I think we learned lessons from this to change that section of the notice of intent. So typically we ask developers to use for the bond. This developer didn't finish his project, and these homeowners, 1503 and whatever the front one is, 1501, are on the hook for doing all the work to finish up themselves. So Garrett had to talk to the Conservation Commission about an as-built plan, had to put in the granite bounds himself. And if there was planting or a restoration area, he would have to make sure that that was growing adequately for the Conservation Commission. So the way it's written, we have to give the bond back. It's been reviewed by town council many years ago. So this particular site. So the answer is we have to give this bond back to that developer. But Garrett has that situation under control. But that's the reason why we have a bond, because if a site is started and the developer takes off, we can at least get it stabilized so it doesn't create erosion. And presumably we were supposed to be able to help finish these things off. So that's again, the reason why we need the rewrite. We haven't been asking for bonds lately. I guess, it would come up. It's not gonna come up from the town. We're not gonna ask the town for a bond. But a contractor that does a subdivision or something like that, you may think about it if there's a lot of wetland there.
But as far as this goes, we would need to vote to release the money
Yeah.
and let the rest of the process play out. And we have no reason for our own perspective.
I'll make a
to
motion
not
to
do that.
release the bond.
Walter Talbot seconds that.
I wanted a brief discussion before we all vote. The bond applies to both houses, right?
No, this bond is only for 1503.
Okay.
The bonds were separated into two, so we two checks, $5,000 each.
Okay.
So just so you know, Garrett has been in communication with the developer. They have an agreement. I think that having the bond helped Garrett put leverage on the contractor to, on 1501, the contractor came out several times because of this. And Garrett was able to reach out and, make an agreement with the contractor. So I think having a bond in certain situations is helpful. We haven't, and not since I've been here, we've never put it on a homeowner. But we haven't been, there's no rule that we can't. It's a big enough project. So.
Thanks. I had questions about the other property, but this property, I think I'm fine with releasing the bond.
So
I'll
you,
make
Rick
a-
moved, Walter
Second.
seconded.
Chirag, can you vote, please?
Sure. Chirag Stalekar in favor.
Walter Talbot's in favor.
Tim Shaw in favor. Rick Keough in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
Brian Bowe in favor. Thank you, Garrett. I apologize for stepping on you twice. Okay, discussion, old new business, violation notices, there's nothing new there. Discussion items, first item there is the conservation DPW meeting this month, is September 2nd. Chuck will handle that now according to the new procedure. So Martha and I will have the day off. Next item is administrator's report. Do you have anything you want to tell us, Chuck?
I think we already talked about Mature Cabin. That's really, the only thing. I think we're getting more and more pressure to pay for tree removal on conservation land. I think Mike Hanford, the tree warden, on discovering some new trees on a new piece of property, and Reading, sent out some emails to Jane and then Jane copied me. And the comment was like, who's paying for these tree removals on conservation land? We have a $5,000 budget, but Bob LaLashore did put $7,000 in Mike Hannaford's tree removal account, and that's yearly. I didn't follow it through the years, but I asked if I could be in charge of that. We could have done our own tree work. But it made sense for Mike to take that on. So I'm assuming every year the forestry department has $7,000 in it that was added to his tree fund to take care of conservation issues. And I'm sure because I don't remember him doing anything for conservation this year, but he has in the past. This may take up all of that money. I'm also not sure they see it that way. That might have just been all mixed in together and no one remembers that accommodation was made by Bob LaLashore. But we're getting pressure from Mike Hannaford, who I'm sure has a tight budget for tree removal. This is a good segue into, maybe you take this on, tell them about our hope that we either have a warrant item or a budget request, Brian.
Okay. So there's two ways we could go forward. One that Chuck mentioned is something for a warrant article going to town meeting. The other is to get an actual budget line item that would be part of the town's budget, and the overall budget would get voted on at town meeting, not individual line items. So we've been batting around the pros and cons. One of the cons of a warrant approach to the town meeting is that it's a one-time event. So if you get approved, good, you have whatever money that was. But if you wanted more in the future, you have to go back. It wouldn't be recurring. If you did a line item in the budget, it's more likely to be recurring, although you'd have to justify the amount. Each time it's not automatic, but it's in there. At least it's an established precedent, if you will. So, like I said, we've been talking about this. We've reached out and talked to other people. We've talked to the chair of the town forest committee. We know what he's doing. I talked to Joe Carnahan, who's FinCom, just to get his view, his understanding of how the process works, and again, the pros and cons. At this point, my lean is towards going to a budget line item, mostly because of the fact that going to the warrant means it's one time. I don't really want to go through that every year and have to justify it again. There's also a difference in the amounts. Town Forest is, they submitted a warrant article for 50,000. We wouldn't be asking for anywhere near that. Chuck and I have been talking over various things we might want to do in a given year period. 20,000 would be a great number. We'd be very happy with it. So there's no advantage to us hooking our wagon to Town Forest because we're not looking for the same amount. We're not going to be involved in that calculus. So
Do you want to expand on, I'm not sure, maybe the conversations evolved, but that 20,000 originally was broken down in one way, which was, so I'm the liaison to the Trails Committee. The Conservation Commission usually gets $5,000 from the Select Board every year, and the Trails Committee usually gets $5,000 from the Select Board each year. That $20,000 would eliminate the need to ask for either one of those groups to ask for their $5,000, but it would give us an extra $10,000 to be used between the groups depending on their need each year. So it wasn't like, whatever, 10,000 each. It was go ahead and spend, and then if something's coming up, maybe Trails needs more. Maybe they ran out of, money, and I have a group of volunteers that still are here for another 2 weeks, and we could do another 50 feet of trail. So we make that accommodation. So but the point is that in a sense, it's essentially asking for an increase of what we're getting, although it's in different buckets, of only $10,000 more to manage almost 1,000 acres of land and almost 17 miles of trail.
And I do want to push back. You said, and you've said before, that we get 5,000. We have gotten 5,000. That's been a recurring number, but in the past couple of years, we've gotten more. This year, in fact, we got 8,500. And so 5,000, I don't want to be married to that number because obviously the cost of things goes up. Cost of material goes up, cost of everything goes up. And so for us, sitting at the same number it might have been a number of years ago, that doesn't work in this world. So that was historical. That's not what we're looking for right now. We're looking for what we need these days.
This is a line item of 20 shared between Trails and Conservation. And how do they coordinate that? Would that be Brian and their chair when projects are coming up?
Well,
I guess what would happen was each group would have their 5,000 whatever, and being the administrator, I would see the numbers, and if someone had an ask, I would know what to do, but you would have to bring it back to each chair. You'd have to bring it back to each group and say, you know, I know from your schedule, you're not doing any projects this year, so the Trails Committee needs, you know, like X, or like tonight, we just found out, you know, does the conservation have any money to take down some trees, which we don't. But say that was approved, and we had blown through our 5,000 already for whatever else we were gonna do. We could tell the Trails Committee that we need another 3,500 for the trees.
The what?
Longer conversation.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry, what was-
I said, how long has he been married to the five? Because he's right, cost of.
So,
Services
No, it's,
have
it's,
gone
it's totally inadequate. We can't, it's gone so
That's what I'm saying.
quickly. You know, as a
so
matter of
an
fact,
example of that in the past is there was a time when Trails needed more building material for another boardwalk. And so Chuck came and said, this is what they need it for. We have this much left in our account to prove moving it over. So it was easy, you know,
Sounds like a
I
no-brainer.
just held their first one.
Trail spent $10,000 in 3 weeks, 2 summers ago, because we had volunteers. We had extra volunteers to do extra work out here.
Like 250 that you go like the special permit, like the 250 that you have to pay to get trees taken down, where does that money go?
That money goes into the tree fund.
So that money would go into,
Well, that tree fund is going to the forestry department.
Right, it's a shade tree fund, so we don't get a piece of that. And as far as
Yeah.
different issue, as far as,
We've,
the-
because
we've
all the trees are
tried.
taken down on
right, as far as,
conservation land,
as
why
far-
they doing that?
as far as the fees for various permits, part of that goes to the state and part of that goes to the town, but not to us. It goes to the general fund for the town.
Yeah, the bylaw fees are the most, the highest fees that the town gets. That goes right at the general fund. We never touch them. They're not for us. We get, each permit, there's 2 numbers that you'll get to know if you're an administrator. It's 4750 and 6530. So those are the 2 numbers for big projects. So $65 is a pretty big project, like a house within 100 feet of the wetlands. So house, driveway, pool, something like that. It's about $65 on the state side. So it takes a long time to build up those funds, but we're completely in control of them. But each year, the town does ask for an offset. So they'll ask to offset my salary. They'll ask for that money. So not only do they get a little portion of the bylaw, they get all the bylaw funds, but they try to get a little portion of these funds too. But, you know, most towns, in this town's no different. They watch it and they understand, like 1 year I told them there's only $4,000 left. I mean, if you ask for what you usually ask for, it's gonna be gone, we'll have nothing. So Gene Delios, they stopped it for a couple of years and let it build up. So. But no matter where we're looking, we're working with very small numbers.
So to come back to the original point of this, so that our decision is warrant or budget line item. I'm leaning toward budget line item. I don't know if anybody has any comments on that based on the 15 minutes of saying what we're talking about, but.
So the budget line item, so what type of approval process that's included in the overall budget that's voted on at town meeting, or is there a separate project to assess the individual line items?
I would say there's certainly a internal approval process to get it on the budget, like the public services budget. You know, regardless, and that's just not Andrew McNichol, it's Jane and Matt are gonna have to say yes, because they've been asking everyone to tighten their belt. And so, you know, how does this work? I'm not sure, but I've often seen, like last year, IT, they said, hey, we cut our budget, or everyone was cutting, it wasn't much, but IT needed to accommodate an increase for one of their people, and so that was allowed. So I think these little,
Right, so the point is, it's
areas
not
have it.
guaranteed either way. If you do the warrant way, obviously you'd have to be accepted and approved by town meeting. Going this way, there is a process to even get that line item in place, no less what the dollar amount is.
and then town meeting.
And then town meeting, but as a whole, yeah.
to follow up to that question, is there a vision of what that $20,000 will enable us to do as a conservation commission? Are there
I'm
any
looking to get
projects
back to
beyond?
Bermuda. I think that would be a useful expenditure.
I guess just to clarify my point, not your vacation schedule, but like for like Mullet Soames or Bear Meadow,
Yes.
we do have maintenance that is done on those sites. So
So,
would that be part of that 20,000, or is there a?
so
multiple
we
projects?
have a list
Mhm.
that's been shifting forever. It does include, for example, one of the bigger items is invasive removal in
Mhm.
Bear Meadow. I was talking to Chuck about whether or not we should put money in there for new plantings for Bear Meadow, which is when I learned that the things that are there are under warranty, so we don't have to account for that. But the other thing we've talked about plantings on the hill at Lot 5. We talked about Martha's favorite thing about some signs with the shape of a woodcock to put in Bear Meadow to say this is a environmental restoration area, for example, as a way to discourage people from going through there.
Mhm.
So there's a long list. I mean, a list in the past, that's where the vest came from.
Right.
Even in the last 5 years, the vest, we didn't have vests, and that was something that was in our request to the town.
So, and it sounds like, so I disagree with Brian. I thought that it was gonna be hard to kind of mention items because they'll be looked at and people will have their own opinion on what things cost.
Mhm.
But for instance, what just happened this week and in the last couple of weeks, well, Matera Cabin was closed down. And facilities, this is too late in the season to take the work on, or, hopefully something happens. But if we had a budget, maybe, because trails are located in that cabin and so is conservation. We could work with trails to get it back together with this budget. So we didn't even expect that. So, and of course, we're gonna take care of Millet, Soms and Morgan. That's one of the biggest reasons why we're asking for it. So anything that our contractors aren't doing out there for the next 3 years would have to be taken care of by conservation.
Well, and
in the
there are
budget.
also things that we just can't predict.
Right.
For example, if somebody's going to donate land to us, town council has said that we have to get a survey, the boundaries done first.
Mhm.
Makes sense, not free.
Mhm.
Now, depending on the size of the property and what have you, that's going to be thousands of dollars. And so there's another item that, that's the reason why you want to have a reasonable sized budget so you can handle some of these unexpected things. So I don't know if I answered your question. or
No, I
if
think
I
you did.
danced around it, but.
I think you did. I mean, I think the point I'm kind of getting at is for that 20,000, we do have a return on investment for that too, for the town. So the value of that property, how it's used, the additional projects that we can take on with maybe new tools, things like that to help volunteers who are maintaining almost 1,000 acres of space. I think that quantifies a little bit more of why there's $20,000 being asked for. And I would hope that would be considered either option, quantify that amount.
Yeah, well, in the end, when it comes to spending money, you all have a say in it. You can say, "I'd like to see this handled in the budget." Doesn't mean it'll be voted on or accepted, but you're allowed to have your own pet peeves, like Martha Signs.
One thing it gives us is the ability to plan for future projects.
So that's a big thing,
And it is a big thing, right?
as opposed to just trying to respond in knee-jerk fashion.
Yeah, speaking like the tree fund, if we were able to take over the tree fund and use it for any conservation purpose, I'm not sure that would be, Matera Cabin, we'd have to get someone to tell us yes or no on that. That money could build up and, that was started in 2013 or something like that. That money could have built up through that whole time. I mean, the only thing we don't get out of that project is the money. We do everything else. We don't get the money, goes to the forestry department. But if we had something like that could build up, you could say, well, look, we in the tree fund, we have $5 grand, another 2 years, we're gonna have 7. So let's start thinking about a habitat study, or let's start thinking of invasive management, get some quotes, figure out where we're gonna spend that money once we get it to about 10 grand or 7 grand.
Because
Can't
money.
even have those
the money-
conversations.
Money you get from the town in the budget, you have to spend that year. So you can't roll it over to build some up for larger projects, what have you. That was part of the problem with Bear Meadow. It took a long time to even get the money for the study from Mass Audubon, no less to start what we did there, you know, the trail around the outside, the thinning of the trees, the replantings that were.
And those certainly need to be maintained. We have a bigger meadow now, and we have that trail, which is longer, that needs to be, you know, conditioned each year, so things don't start growing through it. It's
So do you need a motion?
just a, yeah.
This was informational.
I like the line item idea, $20,000 share between conservation and trails committee going forward. I'm for it.
Okay. Good. So be it. Okay. Next, minutes for approval. Did Emily
I
send
don't
that?
think we saw any.
I didn't see
Yeah.
one. So no minutes to approve. So the next thing is vote for chair and vice chair.
Oh, so you can't lead this. You're gonna have to have somebody else lead it.
However, I will give you some information before I recuse myself. So this actually was due mid-June or so, supposedly to take place beginning of July, so long overdue. So you have 2 minutes to discuss it. Haven't said that, go.
Should we do what we did last year? Like a little competition, and then whoever wins can be.
Well,
chair
last
and
year we
vice
did
chair?
arm wrestling. I don't know if you want to do that again.
That gonna work this year?
Are we allowed to ask questions of the applicants?
Well, a better
Are
question
there
is,
applicants?
a better question is, do they have to answer?
Yeah, I mean, who's in? You know, obviously it can be anybody. And so, but then you need to vote, but I guess once we know who's who, you could ask questions, I guess.
For the election, can I ask a question of Brian?
Depends what the question is. Go ahead, we'll try it.
Do you still want to be chairman?
Yes. And the hesitation is going to modify it and say, I'm willing to be chairman. I mean, it's not something I'm going to do a stump speech for or
Do I,
anything else, but
do
I'm
I,
perfectly happy.
do
to
I
do
get
it.
to say anything about that? No.
Don't let him. The chair says no.
Oh, you don't have a vote, do you?
Is there anybody else?
No, I don't, but I have good inside information.
Is there anybody else competing for the position of chairman?
No, you, Rick? I heard a
How
rumor.
Oh, I don't
Been
have
here
the
long
time.
enough.
Okay,
How about online? We got Shrog.
yeah, he shook his head up there.
Yeah, I saw
I think
that.
he's ready.
No.
All right.
All right,
So if nobody else is going to be foolish enough to offer their name, then please, let's quickly.
is there only one chair? Only one vote for chair?
I thought last year we did one at a time. We did chair and then vice chair.
Well, I don't know if
separately.
maybe Martha wants to go for your position.
I
didn't
did
say
not
anything.
volunteer myself for chair.
Okay,
either.
just wanted to get that
I
out
was
of the way.
listening for the little birdie
Okay.
in the corner.
I am happy to let Brian continue being chair.
So I think there's.
So I would like to nominate Brian for another term as chair.
No, you need a vote.
Second it, I guess.
All right,
It's a nomination, not a motion.
In favor.
Anybody not in favor?
In
leave-
favor?
leave the
In
room.
favor?
Okay, now vice chair.
Who would like to, yeah.
Is
anybody?
anybody else interested in being vice chair? I personally will nominate Martha, but I'm open to other possibilities if somebody is so moved to want to put their name in the ring.
Is this a good time to go over what the chair and vice chair does? Just so they know what they would be getting. No one's volunteered, but I just like for next year, maybe it would be nice to know that these guys are always on call. Saturday, Sunday, I get a call, I can't go, I'm calling them. That doesn't mean they're not calling you guys, or I'm not calling you guys, but someone's doing it. I got people like at my watering crew, like crazy. Thank you so much. I mean, you guys are great. I mean, no one said you had to do that, but you've stepped up. But what else do they do? We have to talk over things. We have a prep meeting for every conservation meeting. We talk about each project. We try to figure out, anticipate questions and things like that. Just the chair and vice chair. They talk to the town manager, they talk to the assistant town manager, they're another voice for conservation. They go to events. Anything else I missed? Oh, and like Brian, Martha both help prepare like the budget, like throw that on Brian. Brian often does the annual report.
I mean, often.
And I just want to say, everyone is encouraged to go to the events like the street fair in September,
Yeah,
that kind of thing. It's not just me and Brian doing it. Walter has helped with that.
yeah.
And before
Are we
this,
doing a
because-
street fair?
I don't know, but like last June, we did the June thing, you know, you've helped with the
Friends and family.
Friends and Family Day, so, you know, that's not just us. But yeah, there are a lot of behind the scenes things that the
Well,
chair and vice chair end up being
so
called on
in
for.
fairness, Martha and I have the advantage of being retired. So we don't have that pesky job to get in the way, at least she has the substitute teaching during the school year, but that's different.
Children's activities on weekends.
And so, I mean, I am perfectly willing to do it. I've been 5 years now, so I'm actually beginning to understand more about the regulations. I encourage all of you to keep on reading them or start reading them because we are trying to base our decisions officially more and more in actual regulations as opposed to common sense and what seems to be the way to do things. So having a basis in that would be a good thing.
And I'm willing to do vice chair for another year. I would encourage somebody else to think about maybe stepping up for the following year. You know, doesn't have to be just me and Brian forever.
In fact, it can't be forever, pretty much by definition. You wanna
Yeah.
Say something? You did, I couldn't.
Father Time is undefeated. That's what I'm gonna say. You just said it can't be forever.
Okay.
I was gonna say, yeah, I have two conditions. First,
No, you're not getting my card
First.
or Bruins tickets.
we want to encourage all commissioners to talk. So the people with the most knowledge, don't say anything, I'm gonna call it low hanging fruit, but the obvious questions. Maybe call on the other commissioners first. And secondly, turn your volume up on your phone and I'll agree to you being chair. So when I call, I don't get I didn't see it.
You're assuming it's volume as
No, I know
opposed to
it's,
choice.
no, I know you're ignoring me, yeah.
Anyway,
He already got voted. You missed your chance to.
that's why Walter said no. He's encouraged, not give him a chance.
So
So,
Brian nominated me for vice chair.
Right.
Are there any other people willing to
Candidates.
be candidates?
I'll respectfully decline all your nominations.
I will not seek and I will not accept for nomination for another term as president.
Do we need a second?
No, we nominated, let's just
You know,
vote.
One vice chair is enough.
All in
No,
favor?
no,
All
no.
in
Second
favor?
for the
All in-
motion.
All in favor of both Martha being vice chair and Chuck being quiet? Please say aye.
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 Okay, good. It passes. I
I
think,
guess I don't get to vote for myself, right? So,
I think you rode through on the tailcoats of him being quiet.
Yeah. okay. All right, we're done with that.
Okay,
Can I move to adjourn this meeting at
we have a long time. We should talk about the Red Sox or something.
8:52?
Yeah, Liz.
Oh, Red Sox, gosh.
Okay. It's kind of a motion. You do a motion to adjourn. Who's going to second it?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Glad to see you're with us again. Glad to hear the cast is off.
Thank you. Thank you. Hope I'm walking around now, so hopefully we'll be in for the next meeting.
Well, you were lucky this
Yeah.
week. We had no site visits to test you
Yep.
on.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
Good night.
Thank you.
Chuck, you want to
What
turn
are
this
we
off?
looking for the next time, you know, is there anything?
Say it again.